So let's do Trump. Surprise, surprise. But what I want to know, one of my first readings was, or one of my first requests was, why Trump? Like, why now? And so I did that reading a long time ago, asking why Trump, why now? Because this was America's lesson. Yeah, let's do that. I'll use the same deck I used then. Why Trump, why now? So now, I have to ask, why is he still here? Legally speaking, or sort of legally speaking, we know what he's done. So it would make sense to say, hey, let's get him out of here, right? So if we know what he's done, and according to what we know, or according to what we believe he has done, he should be on the first thing smoking out of that White House. He's not. Is it purely Nancy Pelosi that's not pulling the trigger? Is it the fact that he won't cooperate with investigations? Is it William Barr? Is it Steve Mnuchin? Is it those things? Or has the United States just not learned its complete lesson? And he just needs to still be here. Because mind you, it's it reminds me of the sort of thing where something is being, where you're going through some sort of turbulent time. Let's say you are warned not to go into this dark forest or something like that. And you go in. And you're scared absolutely witless, right? You're ready for it to end. But there is a certain amount of lesson that needs to be learned. So you can't just instantly go back out. So you have to work your way out of the darkness that you sort of brought upon yourself by your own actions. Because like I said, Donald Trump is our mirror. He reflects our society. This is how we behave. We just don't think so because we're on our high horses. But once you come down from that high horse, you realize that our society behaves just like he does. So he's here for a reason. He's showing us ourselves. We don't care about the environment until a news story breaks out saying that the rainforest is on fire. Okay, that's Donald Trump. We don't care. We didn't care about the immigrants when Obama was deporting them. He deported more than Bush and Clinton. But now we care about them because Donald Trump's treating them bad. Well, so did we. So there is this, I would say we as all of us, but we as a society. So there is this behavior that has infected the American people, and it's displayed through Donald Trump. He just has the, I don't know if you want to call it stupidity or bravery to show it. So why is he still here? Like, he should be gone because he's broken the law, but he's still here. Let's see why. Regret, sorrow, disappointment. Also moon on the back of his hat, showing a little deeper mystery. So this is bigger than us, right off the bat. No more surprises. So this is as I guess worse as it's going to get. Magician. There's a balance that needs to happen too. I know we think we've learned our lesson because we are tired of him, but the pentagram is sort of a, it depends on, I guess, what method you want to follow, but it usually depicts the 5 elements. There's earth, water, fire, air, and spirit. So there's the balance there. These can also represent the 5 wounds of Christ if you follow that theory. The head, the 2 arms, and the 2 legs. And so there is no balance in our nature with the earth, the water, and the fire, and so on. There is also no, I guess, credence paid to our religious nature. There is no balance in our harmony. There is no balance in our love. So it just leaves regret. So this is just the setup. This is not what's happening in the future. So this is the setup. This is why we're here. Because there was no balance to us. We live in the paradise, mind you. I said this the first time. We live in the paradise. It's all beautiful everywhere. We hold the answers. Usually this depicts a person crying over the cups, and then there are 2 behind him. This person is holding the answers, is holding the Holy Grail, is holding the greatest things that we could possibly have. You're surrounded by paradise, holding the answers, and yet we cry over what we don't have. That's a greed complex, too. I'm holding all I can hold. He has no more hands. But I want this, too. I want what fell down. I want what I no longer have. This is us. This is why the balance is behind him. The balance of the earth and the water, and the balance of the 5 wounds of Christ, however you want to follow it. The balance is gone. We hold the answer. We hold all we can possibly hold, and yet we want more. The greed in our society, the imbalance in our society is still here. We have the power to change it. That's what the magician tells you. To shed the old way of life, to shed the skin of the old way of life. We have the power to do so. We just never really do it. The procrastination. The analogy I gave in that other one is coming back to me now. Is the grasshopper and the, the squirrel and something like that. But I forget. How the squirrel puts away the nuts for the winter because he knows the hard times are coming. And the grasshopper just sort of, frolics and plays because the sun is out. Why are you wasting your time gathering nuts for something that's not even here? Have fun now. And then the winter gets here and then he's freezing and the other one's okay. That's us. We're not prepared for nothing. We have the power to change it and yet we don't change it. Because we're too busy. I want what I lost. We lost our election to a foreign power. It's done. You know it. You have the information in your hand. Correct it for next time. Get him out if you can, but correct it for next time. Temperance. Moderation. Basically, you haven't learned your lesson. Moderation. Temperate reactions. Give and take. Balance. Balance. You have none. 1 foot on the earth and 1 foot in the water. There's a balance to life. A balance between stability and emotion. We don't have it. I think this is also a little depiction of, and I might get this wrong, but it's Artemis and Icaros, I think. And Artemis is supposed to be the one who is quick on the land, very fast. And Icaros is supposed to be the one who had these wings of ice. And he could fly fast. He'd get too close to the sun, his wings melted, and he fell out the sky. Because he did not heed the warning. Do not go so close to the sun. He says, but I can fly high. Still, don't go so close to the sun. But what is the point if I can fly so high? So he did, his wings melted, and he fell out the sky. There was no balance. This guy's on the earth. There's no need to fly, for there's nothing up there for me to see that I can't see from down here. We still lack balance. We have reacted to the crisis at the border. We have reacted to the crisis of the planet and the global warming, climate change. We have not done anything about it. Either one. Yes, Obama deported a lot of immigrants, but he did not treat them this way. So we see the treatment, and nothing has been done. Now you could say, oh, that's because of Trump. No, Trump is just the president. It takes more than just him. The rest of our government is our responsibility as well. We didn't put enough energy. We didn't put enough legwork. We didn't put enough votes. When Obama was president and he needed help from Congress, instead what we did is stayed home and he got a Republican Congress. And so there was nothing he could do. The American people failed the American president. No one points the finger and says that, but that's what happened. And then we get Donald Trump, who has a majority, or had a majority. And then we became up in arms. Because again, your local elections, there was no balance to them. And then once it was, I guess, time for the midterms, then they took the House. And we were like, yay, at least we took the House. Well, given the unpopularity of Republicans, period, not just at this point, but period, the House and the Senate should have been gone. And so then you can point the finger and say, well, gerrymandering. But again, that is our fault. We picked the politicians that drew up the districting maps. Whether this was just a city councilman. Responsibility and balance still lies upon the citizenry, the electorate. We want things to go our way, but we hold the answer. We just left the balance behind us, and therefore we didn't do anything about it. We had the power to change this. But we flew too close to the sun. Because we thought, everything's all right. I'll just cast a vote and that's the end of it. Okay, the vote didn't turn out right. Fine, I'll be mad for 2 years and then that'll be the end of it. You have the answers. Why is he still here? Because. That's why. Because. You're not ready to move on if you don't take more of an action. Six of Pentacles. Sharing time, money, and information. Justice. There is a revamp that needs to happen. Just why you have all this balance in the beginning and then the power to change it as well. There's a revamp that needs to happen to the way our legal system behaves and the way we behave as a nation. If you have the power to help, then help. Become the big brother of the world again. Become the, whatever you want to call it, guardian, whatever you want to call it. But our legal system is littered with money and payouts. You have the power to change that too. You get to vote for district judges. You get to vote for sheriffs. So when a man chokes out another man on the sidewalk, he's not let go just because he's a police officer. This is our system. It surrounds us. This is why these cards are here. We have things that we needed to look at in our justice system. Donald Trump also showed us this in a major way. The Electoral College is a thing of the past, created by the past, created by people who did not live in our present day. Therefore, it's no longer needed. Get rid of it. It no longer serves you. You have to submit to it. Everybody in this Pentacle card is not in a position of power. There are people who are submitting to whatever it is that he needs in order for you to get what you want. Or should I say, to submit to what he wants to get what you need. This is food and beverage that is being provided to these people in exchange for the pentacles. So he gets what he wants, you get what you need. Our system is littered with lobbying. It's littered with corruption. It's littered with quid pro quo, this for that. You have the power to change that. Why is he still here? Because just because you saw everything you needed to see does not mean we are now doing everything we need to do. Yes, there are little groups out here, and that's great. But everyone needs more of an action than they are taking. King of Swords. And the Page of Cups. There was an awakening in this country that also needed to happen. This is sort of that emotion with the Page of Cups. This is Donald Trump. He is a representation of a section of our country that needs to be addressed head on. Not just in the headline of, oh, extremist does this and extremist does that, and Donald Trump's rhetoric is this and Donald Trump's rhetoric is that. Remember the balance? Everything in the world is not his fault. We may say his rhetoric has caused the shootings, but let's face it, these people were already here. There was a problem during the Obama years with racism. We ignored it because we said they were stupid. They lost their jobs, and we got to point and laugh because they got consequences and things like that. But they were still there. They weren't being treated for this. That is a you can call it mental illness. Mental illness to me seems a little more softer of a word. This is just mental destruction. Like you have lost a mental capacity beyond mental illness. They're here. They do need a certain amount of nurturing. However, this Cups cards are emotion. They do need some nurturing. They do need some correction. He was just the catapult to their actual feelings. What we need is for this to be addressed head on. Not in a headline saying that we found this extremist to have done this. Okay, big damn deal. Now what? Who else does he know that was complicit in his behavior? Who else does he know who saw the signs of him being someone who was crazy and then did nothing about it? We have to recognize, and if you see something, say something. He was just the catapult. He pushed him over the edge. This wasn't his fault. He just didn't help because they were here already. This is again what we go back to, the balance. Now that Donald Trump's here, he's a very good target. He's easy. It's kind of like I grew up as a Christian, and what they would say is, oh, the devil's alive and well every time something bad happened in their life. Everything is not the devil's fault. Sometimes life just happens. Tree fell in your house. Oh, the devil's alive and well. Well, the tree got blown down. That's how wind works. The devil didn't push the tree down on your house. Everything is not Donald Trump's fault. Everything was magnified because he existed, because he is the president, because he is there. So now we see him, we see it. But it was always there. It was always there. We held the answer. We held the proof that it was always there. If the assassination of Martin Luther King did not tell you it was always there, it was always there. If slavery, if Jim Crow, if segregation did not tell you it was always there, these people it didn't go away just because those in particular people have now since died. This is the page, which means it's born in youth. It's here still. He is just the magnifying glass to this behavior, to the corruption in the legal system, to the corruption of the minds of these stupid people. I'm just going to be judgmental and say it. Of these people with this extreme illness and the mental capacity. It was always here. The lobbying was always here. We just see the corruption in our government because he's our magnifying glass. It's not his fault. But now that we have him, this is all we focus on. Is pointing at him and saying, look what you're doing. Instead of pointing at our society and say, look what we're ignoring. Because all we focus on is him instead of all the actual issues. One day he won't be president. Even if he serves a whole nother term. He got 8 years. Good for you. This stuff is still here. It'll still be there. Because all we focus on is please get him out the door. Because every day I wake up, he makes me sick, and oh my God. Okay, one day he'll be gone. Then what are you going to do? It's not him. It's us. He is just an example of what happens when you don't pay attention to this. The world. Completion. We fear it will never end. That's all I'll say about that one. We want the victory. This is our hopes. But these two cards do speak to our short-sightedness. This is what we fear. This is what we hope for. We want the victory in this situation. We fear it will never end. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, when are we going to address this? Like, actually address it. When are we going to hire a politician that says, you know what, no more money in politics, executive order, there you go. When are we going to classify racism as a mental illness and do something about it? When we want the victory, we want it now, we want this completion, but we have no solutions in between completion and victory. Two of Cups. The good part about this, the social change. There will always remain the constant that the world is getting worse when it is actually getting better. This card is proof. In traditional tarot decks, it depicts a man and a woman coming to some sort of agreement. This is not only two men, but two men of different races, if you will. Sort of giving you the indication of harmony. Red cloak, blue belt. Blue belt or blue cloak, red belt. There's a harmony. There's a balance. There's a returning to civility. We have every single avenue, we have every single technology you can possibly have to reach each other. FaceTime, and hell, we can even still do smoke signals if you want. There is still a reaching across the aisle, and not politically speaking, with us speaking. Social change will eventually heal this country. This is not predominant. It's just crippling to a certain section of our population. This is predominant. This is why you have the balance card come up first. It's actually a card of regret and sorrow, but balance is what I want you to focus on. Now, if you take those two cups that you hold the answer, take those two cups and you share those answers. Never mind this. This is gone. Focus on what you have. You still, if you recognize, there is the paradise. You're still in the paradise. The scene has changed, but it's still a paradise. Everything is lush. Everything is green. Everything is not that bad. There is a balance to us. Once we hear the bad news, that's all we hear. That's it. Why is Trump still here? Because you don't have a personal balance either. Oh my God, the children at the border, I'm so sick. This is making me so sad. Okay, meanwhile, there is someone in this very country who has taken a child in. This child was not theirs by birth, but this child needs a home. This child is 17. And this person, teenagers and middle of the road kids, 8 and up, they're very hard to get homes for because they have their own personalities already and, they're a big kid. So they sort of get lost in the foster care system. So taking care of each other is still predominant in this society. Caring for one another is still predominant in this society, but nobody highlights that. So the moment you turn on your TV, you turn on your media source of whatever it is, and they tell you all the horrible things that are happening to all the good people in the world, you never really stop to think, well, what about all the good stuff that's also happening? And you may say, well, the good stuff doesn't need to be reported because it's good and it's not hurting anybody. We need to report on this bad stuff so that we can fix it. Remember the whole balance and the thing? Okay, yes, that is true. That we do need to fix it. But now that you know that it's there, what you don't need to do is hone on it and then stay on it. Fix it and then move on. But you also need to carry this around with you. The fact that the earth and the world is not that bad. There's still balance. There's still harmony. There's still love. There is still peace in this country. Americans are not horrible people. They're just represented by horrible ideas sometimes. So now that you know better, you must do better. the Knight of Cups. This is the card of romance and charm. The Knight in shining armor. Coming in to save the day. These are the good times ahead. But good times, and there's a song by, I think the Dave Matthews Band. It's called Cry Freedom. And it says, the future is no place to place your better days. You can live in the good time right now. Everything does not have to be futuristically good. It can be good right now. Global warming is bad. Okay, get together, pick up the trash. You may say that may not make much of a difference or that big of a difference, but if you don't pick it up, it stays there forever. There are little things that we can do. There are little bits of joy throughout the day. We just don't stop to look at them. Because the glaring headline is something awful. It's always something awful. And then when you do happen to come upon a good story, it's ignored, or it's an eye roll moment, because why are you talking about that when all this horrible stuff is happening? I see it, hell, even in these readings. I do a reading about something other than Donald Trump, and then inevitably I get a person saying, why are you doing that when this and this is happening? Why are you reading on... What did I read on? That one. Why are you reading on chicken and eggs when the Amazon is on fire? Because I don't have enough water to put it out. That's why. Probably the people who started it are the ones who need to put it out. So meanwhile, back on this chicken and egg thing, let's go here. So if you have a solution to the fires, then you shouldn't even be watching this video. You should be out there putting it out. So we have better days right now. We just have to pay attention to them. There is no balance in constantly looking at what's lost. You hold better days in front of you. The world is not that bad. Our headlines would have us believe it is, because that's all we ever damn see. Your warning. Changing administrations does not change our problems. They are deep-rooted. It is hard to get rid of gerrymandering. It is hard to get rid of lobbying. It's hard to get rid of racism. They are not impossible. They are just hard to kill. And saying we no longer want Trump, we want some other guy, we want some other woman, we want somebody else other than him. That doesn't fix your problem. He is not your problem. He is just your mirror to the problem. He is reflecting what has already been there. He is not the source. He is just a symptom. This is what arises. That's it. Changing your administration does not solve the problems. The problems were there before him. Our solace. The stability our youth brings. The future is no place to place your better days, because it's already here. Our future is being held by those of action. Our stability is being held by those of action. Our youth, they hold the answer. I always tell my nieces, that you will, as another song says, Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong, that you will learn much more than I will ever know. They have solutions. This is one in getting rid of the racism. It's sort of like a shrinking of environments. The more we push them to a center, the more they can be segregated and then dealt with that way. They have solutions. They need a platform. Saying you're too young, you don't understand. Saying too young, this is the way things used to be, and that doesn't help. In the same token, saying you're too old, you don't get it. The world has changed, does not help either. They have already been where you're trying to go, therefore they have something to add. But they are going places that you will never make it, therefore they have a platform that needs to be heard. So there is a harmony. There is a balance that needs to happen. Why is he still here? Because we need to learn this. At first, what we needed to learn was everything. That our environment is in trouble. We got it. That our citizenry is in trouble. We got it. That our government is being corrupted. We got it. So we're doing something about the environment. We have solutions. Paris Accord. Fantastic. We have some solutions with the gerrymandering. That's what Obama and Eric Holder are working on, is redistricting maps. They have succeeded in a few states. So there are things, there is progression. So this is not being ignored. But the gerrymandering and the corruption, the lobbying money in government, and then the racism is not something that is quite fixed. There is no real concrete solution. Therefore, he is still needed. His rhetoric has magnified. He is not his fault, because he's not the source, but he is a help to the chaos. So, since he has come along, this has sort of come to the forefront. And it's come to the forefront because now you must deal with it. The corruption in government has come to the forefront, draining the swamp. So now you must deal with it. He did drain the swamp. Now you see all the creatures. So now you must deal with it. Draining the swamp does not mean taking the creatures out of the swamp. It means draining the water. Now you can see what's going on. He was the mirror. He showed you everything. In a sort of, Lord forgive me for saying it this way, but in sort of a sixth sense, sick, S-I-C-K, sick sense, God bless Donald Trump. For we coasted through life seeing that problems were awful and we just ignored them because they weren't big enough. But they were bubbling above the surface, and he is the mirror. He showed you, not just a mirror, but one of those big giant funhouse ones that sort of, well, not distorted, but magnify. It makes it look bigger than it is because it's something you need to deal with. It's kind of like mold. You see it, you see the little black spots around things, and you think, oh, it's just a little dark spot. But no, if you look at it, it's eating your house. It does need to be dealt with, yes. He's showing us everything. The sexual crimes, the financial crimes, crimes of real estate, the crimes of humanity, the way we treat other people. Just because they're immigrants, you don't treat them like caged animals. We do these sort of things, and it has brought it to the forefront. He's showing us. So we have the Page of Swords and the Two of Wands. In the midst of the bad news, there is preparation. This is again your solace. In the midst of the bad news, because there is youth behind this, again with the page, there's youth behind our racism. They got it too. But there's stability in our youth. It can be changed from the inside. We see this. It was magnified. Donald Trump served his purpose, is serving his purpose. He too had a lesson in this, but he's not going to learn his. So make sure you learn yours. It's always been here. Always. It has always been here. All of that. In order to become a person who is no longer powerless, we have to keep climbing the hill. We'll get to the top eventually. It's just a struggle. The world is always getting better, despite what you see in a headline. That is your solace.